Let's go.
Dr. Rosie Milligan, one of the most sought-after speakers on the circuit today. Her live internet talk show, Express Yourself, is the most provocative, thought-provoking, and talked-about radio show on the internet. There's no holds barred, and Dr. Milligan puts the B in bold. She brings it every Tuesday live at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Rosie has been proclaimed the most provocative female writer of the century. Her books include Satisfying the Black Man and Black Woman Sexually Made Simple, Why Black Men Choose White Women, and the book Nigga Please. These books have raised eyebrows across the country. She has authored 21 books and published 350 titles for authors nationwide. Check Dr. Rosie out at drrosie.com for her books, articles, and archives of her internet talk show. Sit at the feet of wisdom. Dr. Milligan is indeed a timekeeper and scorekeeper. She is the clock, calendar, and almanac for Black America. You need to hear her.
Top of the morning in sunny California. You're listening to the Express Yourself Hour. I am your host, Dr. Rosie Milligan, coming to you live, as always, nothing but straight talk. Yes, that's how we do it around here, nothing but straight talk. And we have a wonderful show for you today. And my co-host is Mr. Keith Swanson. You know, we call him the Invisible Man because people have been looking for him. Where is Keith? They keep asking me. I don't believe he's real. He never shows up in a place. We have never seen him in a place. Is Keith really real? And I told him, hold on, you guys. For the conference for Black Writers on Tour, he promised me he's going to show up. He's going to be on Zoom, and you are going to look for him. And the person who identified the person they've never seen just from his voice, you're going to win some money. You guys are going to be excited on April 30th as people begin to go on a scavenger hunt for the Invisible Man. My co-host, Mr. Keith Swanson. Good morning, Keith.
You know, Dr. Rosie, when I used to show up all the time and actually do seminars and stuff like that, nobody paid attention. But now there's a hunt for me.
Wow. Well, this is going to be fun. I don't know if my other co-host is here, Shawana Bordenay. We call her the Valley Girl. You guys know.
She's out making money. That's what
she's out making money. She's selling real estate. She better be on this call because that's what we're going to be talking about today, some real estate. And she needs to make sure that she understands everything that Ms. Susan Shelley's going to be talking about because, you guys, it's something coming down the pipe. Yeah. It ain't nice. It ain't nice.
Because I've been reading about it, about what's going on with, especially with real estate and what Wall Street is doing, and it's going to be a conversation because, when you, how many people can you put out into the street before something happens? So it's going to be really critical. So the next couple of years, they're going to have to make a decision. Now they're going to, capitalism is going to work for the people, it's going to work for the corporations. So we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Keith Jamal posted the show that we are doing today, and he got a text from someone in Bermuda who's saying they were interested because they think the same thing might be coming their way that's going to cause them some problems. But anyway, go ahead, and then I'll introduce my guest.
No, it's all over because I want to hear what she has to say because what I've been reading over the past couple of weeks is means trouble for a whole lot of people. So. I wonder, exactly what her input's going to be because it's not going to be pretty for the next 2022 is not going to be pretty. Let's put it that way.
Wow. Okay, well, I'm so excited today about someone that I just met. I read about, heard about for a long time because, she's well known out here. And she agreed to come on my show, and I just spoke with her last Thursday, and she said I would do it. I said, "Wow, I'm so grateful."
Only you, Dr. Rosie.
I can pull the rabbit out the hat. I have my little mojo working. Y'all know.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So anyway, my guest today is none other than Ms. Susan Shelley. She is the Vice President of Communication for the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. She's the most influential taxpayers advocacy group in California. You guys hear what I said, in California. She's also a columnist, and editorial writer for the Southern California News Group, 11 daily papers, including the Orange County Register and the LA Daily News. Susan's a frequent guest on Southern California radio and TV news, interview talk shows, and she's the co-host of the Howard Jarvis podcast for KABC. Miss Shelley, good morning.
Well, Dr. Rosie, it is such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I thank you so much, and we have such a timely topic. And Keith, you know, I did shows about that in February, January, before all this came about. I think I was one of the first one, like in our community, raising the conscience of the people about this, so they could get down, you know, make some changes. So now we're back on it again. Remember, I interviewed Mr. Jeff Pringle. So we just had our finger on the pulse. So you need to wake up your friends, your relatives. I don't care who it is, even if you're enemy, they need to know what's going on. So our topic today is for you to learn how California's new death tax is destroying generational wealth for everyday people. Death tax, that's a good name for it too, because it's sure going to cause a whole lot of death, real property. And I tell you, this is the most critical issue that's confronting us today. And I always tell people, we get excited about presidential election and all this stuff. I keep telling people it's about the local thing that's going to impact you and your family. People tend not to go to the poll, not tend to vote. This is important. What's happening with the schools? What's happening with housing? What's happening in your neighborhood? That's what we really need to embrace. And then you would put pressure on those who represent you, who go into the White House, who go into Congress and the House of Representatives. Folks, it's time now, like never before, to wake up the sleepers. So, Miss Susan, tell us what we're talking about today, how this can impact our life. In fact, a lot of people don't have any knowledge about it. So why don't you just give us an overview? And those who are waiting, I know there's people on the line and people want to talk. Just give us a few minutes to have Susan to dabble in, give you a good understanding. And then you can call us at 310-928-7733. That's 310-928-7733. Miss Susan, take it away.
Okay, well, I'm happy to do so. One of the best ways for families to build wealth from generation to generation is through real estate. You know, people buy real estate and they get financing and they pay it off over 30 years and they leave it to their kids. And it appreciates through time, and it's an asset that you can borrow against for college or in an emergency. Building wealth through real estate is one of the most important ways for families to advance from generation to generation, so that people are not so strained financially and they can afford to live in California and prosper. And what is happening now is a change in the law has created the situation where property taxes will skyrocket when property is passed from parents to children. So even property that is paid off, debt-free, all clear, people cannot necessarily afford to keep it, because the property taxes, the annual bill for property taxes, is going to go up so high. It used to be the case that from 1986 on, property could be passed from parents to children without being reassessed to market value. So the property tax bill under Proposition 13 would stay the same. And now that's gone, with only limited exceptions. So here's the situation. Prop 13 was passed in 1978. It said that for as long as you owned your home, the property tax assessment could not go up more than 2% a year. And that kept the property taxes under control while you owned your property. When property was passed to the next generation, at one time that was considered a change of ownership, and it was reassessed to current market value. Well, with inflation, that was so high that the new percentage, the new 1% of the current market value was unaffordable. So the legislature stepped in, and they created this parent-child exception from reassessment. And it went on the ballot, and it passed with 75% of the vote, and now it's gone because Proposition 19 in 2020 took it away. And now you only get an exclusion for the primary residence of the parents if it also becomes the primary residence of the child within 1 year permanently. An income property, a little duplex, a vacation home, anything else that people have invested in, a business property, that is reassessed to market value. And market value is crazy now. So 1% of the market value, to pay that every year is unaffordable. This forces the children who've inherited the property to sell it because they can't pay the taxes. And that's what robs you of the intergenerational wealth. So what we are doing at Howard Jarvis is trying to repeal this change and put back the parent-child transfer exclusion from reassessment. And you can get the petition to get this on the ballot at repealthedeathtax.com. And if you sign it and send it back to us by April 15th, we can get this on the ballot.
So, Susan, what we're saying is that, in other words, if the parents make their transition, it has to be the home that they're living in. Say they decided to move someplace else, or they're in a condominium that they wanted, and they had a family home. So since they're not living in that home, so it loses all of that, what it used to have, as far as reassessment. So the parents have to be living, it has to be that primary resident, and the child must move into that property in order to get that exclusion. Okay, I have a home. Right. Satisfied with my home, paying for my home, not paid off. But in order for me to get this exclusion, I have to move from my home to this home, right?
Right. If you inherit a primary residence, if you inherit your parents' primary residence, you have to move into it within 1 year in order to keep the same property tax bill that it currently had for your parents. Otherwise, the property taxes will jump up. And so the property tax rate is 1%. It's actually a little more than that, but it's 1% of the assessed value. And under Prop 13, a home that's been owned for a very long time would have a lower assessed value than the market value, because the market value might go up 20% in a year, which it has in California, but your assessed value is capped at 2% increases. So over the years, it stays lower. You lose that when you inherit the home and it's reassessed to market value, unless you can move into it within 1 year and make it your permanent primary residence.
Folks, that's big. If someone bought a house, just take, for instance, here in the Merck Park or Ladera, one of those places, and say they were paying maybe $3,000 or $4,000 a year for taxes, and now that house is worth over $1 million. I think they're going to be looking at like $1,000 or more a month tax. Folks, that's big. $1,000 or more dollars.
Right. It would jump from like $3,000 to $10,000 because it was reassessed to the $1 million market value. So the new tax bill would be $10,000 plus all the local taxes and bonds that are added onto your property tax bill. So that would be a lot. It's a lot of money for people to come up with every year as a condition of keeping their property. And for small businesses, it's just devastating. For rental properties, it's devastating because there's no exclusion at all for income property. So a small apartment building that's owned by mom and pop landlords and passes to the next generation is going to be reassessed to market value as of the date of death. And all those tenants are likely to be evicted because all of a sudden the expenses of running that building have gone up because of the new property tax bill. And if the rents are under rent control, they can't go up. So what's going to happen? The business is no longer sustainable, and it's likely that all the tenants will be evicted and the building will become something else and not rental property.
So you're losing that generational wealth. Because what I noticed, Susan, in my community, a lot of our people, African-American, many of them came here from the South, and they landed, they planted their seeds here, they rented to people, and some of these people have been in their homes, their apartments or in their little courts, their houses for years. So they never really raised the rent. And even when people start raising rent, they felt like, well, I know they're not doing well. They didn't raise rents. So it was bad enough when they tried to sell their property and rents were so low. It was impacting them. So now, not only are we looking at the offspring losing this property, folks, we're looking at ordinary, everyday people who don't have much are going to be homeless. I'm telling you, that's what's going. We're looking at twofold problem. We're talking about
Right.
losing generational wealth, and we're talking about having people in the street. Because
Absolutely.
if you can't
Absolutely.
pay for it, you're going to lose it.
Absolutely. And something like 40 to 50% of all the rental units, the apartments in California, are owned by mom and pop landlords. And all of those buildings will be affected by this measure because it's inflation that's pushing up the values of property. It's not anything real. These are paper profits that people have. And yet the taxes are real. When you have to pay that 1% of the market value as a tax bill every year, that's real money you've got to come up with in cash to pay those taxes, or the property has to be sold. And this is just unreasonable, and it wasn't necessary. The state does not need this tax increase. The state has a huge surplus. They're looking at ways to try to give money back to the taxpayers because it's illegal for them to run surplus like this. So they don't need tax increases. What are we doing to ourselves here? This was slipped through in November 2020 in Proposition 19, which looked like it was only about helping wildfire victims move to a new home.
Yeah.
And it did that. It helps wildfire victims move to a new home. That's fine. But it also had this. It took away the parent-child transfer exclusion from reassessment. And now we have all these consequences that we have to deal with. But this can be fixed. This can be fixed. We can amend the Constitution to put back what was taken away. We can put back the intergenerational transfer protection. And that's what we're doing with repealthedeathtax.com.
How much time do we have to make this happen? And what
Very
can
little.
the audience, what can they do?
They can pick up the petition. They can ask for the petition to be mailed to them. They can circulate the petition for signatures. Any registered voter can sign this petition. We need 1 million valid signatures of registered voters by April 15th. You have to get those petitions in the mail to us by April 15th. Or you can drop them off at a lot of locations. And you just push the buttons at repealthedeathtax.com for whatever you want, to have it mailed to you, to pick it up, to find a drop-off location. We are working as hard as we can to add more pickup locations and more drop-off locations. Hundreds of people every day signing up to have it mailed to them. Mm-hmm. And the whole staff in Sacramento is stuffing envelopes and sending those out. So we are doing everything we can to get this on the ballot in November.
So can you download a PDF with the petition, or does it have to be mailed?
No,
it has
to be on paper. Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this petition is pretty long, and so it wouldn't fit on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Okay.
And it might not be valid if it's printed, resized, or So we have to get it to you on real paper.
Okay.
So that website again is
repealthedeathtax.com. Repealthedeathtax.com.
Okay. And if I want to be a place where they can pick it up, I have health food store and bookstore. So my business in the same location. So could we be a spot where people could come?
You sure can. We'd be delighted. There's a form. If you go to the pickup location link, push the button for pickup locations, you'll see a link for provide a pickup location. And if you just fill that out, we will send you the petition. And you can be a pickup and drop-off and signing location if you want to. And we will get you all set up and put it on the website, and people can come right to you to do that. That would be great.
Great. So I'm definitely going to do that. And those who are listening, we're going to need some volunteers. We are going to need some volunteers. Folks, this is everybody's business. I'm telling you. And we're talking about 3 weeks that we have to get these things in, right?
Right. We've been working on this since November. There's not very much time under state law between the time they let you start circulating for signatures and the time you run out of time for circulating. So we started November 1st, and we're coming up on the end. We need these back in our Sacramento office mid-April so that we can file that. We have to sort them and put them in separate boxes. They all go back to the separate county offices. So there are 58 counties in California. We're going to be delivering petitions to each one of them after April 15th. So we are working.
So those who are listening, if you don't do anything but make sure that your family, all the contact that you have, your church friend, your sorority, this is critical. Then everyone us need to take a part in that. If you have families in other cities, like my daughter lives in Bakersfield, I've already told her about this. We just got to, I mean, this is a California event, you guys. So we must do this, because if we don't get this done, everything, well, most of the stuff here in LA, I'm telling you right now, be owned by corporate or be owned by folks coming from other countries buying up. And we just be renters. And some won't be renters, will be homeless. That's just how serious this is. So let me give the phone number out. I know there are people who are on the line and want to talk to Susan. That number is 310-928-7733. 310-928-7733. And I'm going to need some volunteers. We're going to need volunteers all over, because this impacts all of us. I know for me, I don't want to be working hard and building up stuff and my property, and to think that my children, will have some issues when I'm gone. Folks, no, this ain't no plaything right here. This is the real deal. So let me see if we have a caller. I know we got a lot of people listening. Feel free to call and ask any question. So, Keith, did you have a comment? I thought you was trying to make a comment. Otherwise, I'll be back to Susan.
No, go ahead back to Susan. This is interesting because, like they said, this will impact a whole lot of people, because a lot of baby boomers, like myself, are holding on to property so we can actually pass it on to our children, because they won't be able to live here. So if this law doesn't get amended, then they won't be able to live here anyway. What we've done will be fruitless. So I'm sure there's a lot of people just like me.
Yeah, and something else that people didn't realize is that even though you can have the exclusion if you move into your parents' primary residence within a year, it's capped. So if the value of the property is rising very quickly, it will exceed the cap, and then you're going to have a tax increase anyway, which is just crazy, because you sell the house that you're living in, or you drop everything and you move into your parents' house when you inherit it. And if the value exceeds the current tax bill plus $1 million, which is pretty easy in California today, if it exceeds the current assessed value plus $1 million, everything over that is added to your assessment, and you owe 1% of that in extra taxes. So you could have a huge tax increase. You could see your tax bill triple, even though you've got the exclusion and you moved in. So this is really harming everybody. And because no one can control the rise in property prices, this is out of everybody's control. It can't be predicted. It can't be foreseen. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to be taxed on these paper profits every year in order to keep your property. And that's just unreasonable.
That's right. And not only that, Susan, a lot of times when people see their tax bill and they think that their tax basis actually went up, when possibly that it didn't. You have all these other taxes for school board, all these other things, they go up. They increase too now, you all, not just the tax basis, the real estate tax. You got all these other taxes increasing. So, this is not making sense at all. So I hope that people don't sleep behind the wheel, because this is going to really hurt, and hurt badly. And if you don't move in, if you move in, if I'm right, let me know, Susan, that if you move out, they will reassess it.
That's absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. If you move into your parents' primary residence and you make it your primary residence and you do everything you need to do to get the exclusion, but then 5 or 6 years later you want to move out, you lose it. And the property will be reassessed to what the market value was at the time of the transfer, at the time you inherited it, plus the 2% a year for inflation every year after that, that's allowed under Prop 13. And so if you have to move out at any time in your life, it's going to be reassessed and you're going to have that higher tax bill.
And if you move out because you say, well, I'll just rent it, okay, then the tax can be so high that you may not be able to get the rent you need still to take care of that house. It's really...
Exactly. So then you have to sell it, and who's going to buy it? Probably a corporation in New York, and they're going to rent it out. And what this is going to do is knock the middle class out of home ownership in California. How does that help us? That's a terrible outcome.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's the biggest write-off, Susan, for most people. The average person who does not have a business, all they have to write off is at home.
Exactly. In California, how does that help us? That's a terrible outcome.
And that's the biggest write-off, Susan, for most people. The average person who does not have a business, all they have to write off is at home.
Exactly. But if they were forced to pay taxes on that value as if they could afford to buy it, they're not going to be able to afford to keep it. And it's their property. See, that's what makes property taxes different than other taxes. Income tax, once on the way in. Sales tax, once on the way out. Property tax, every year, as a condition of keeping what you already own. And that is just wrong. It is wrong to use property taxes to tax people out of their own property. It's fine to do property taxes to pay for property-related services, but it's not fine to use it to tax people out of their property. Taxes, income tax, once on the way in. Sales tax, once on the way out. Property tax, every year, as a condition of keeping.
Not going to be able to hold on to it. Susan, what are our politicians saying about this?
Well, they really like tax increases. Our politicians in California, they like tax increases, and they hate Proposition 13 because Proposition 13 puts a limit on how much property taxes can go up, and they hate that. So there's been a long-term plot. I use the word plot advisedly. It really is a scheme. They are trying to break up Prop 13 so they can raise taxes on people, and there's 4 or 5 different paths that they're using. One of the things in Prop 13 requires the right to vote on taxes. Local taxes are supposed to pass with the approval of the voters. And a general tax needs a simple majority, but a specific tax, a special tax, like it's just for police or it's just for schools, that needs 2/3. Well, the courts have been eroding that. And now they're looking for loopholes. They're creating loopholes. Well, sometimes, under some circumstances, it only needs a simple majority. Well, this makes it easier to raise all those extra taxes, your sales tax, those school board charges you were talking about on the tax bill. It makes it easier to raise taxes. And you keep adding these up, election after election after election, and pretty soon people can't afford to keep their property. So the attack on Prop 13 is a long-term plan. This was one of the things, this extension of Prop 13 when property is passed from generation to generation is something that politicians don't like. They don't like it, and they wanted to get rid of it, and this was the way they did it. They hid this change behind this business about helping wildfire victims, and people were fooled. And now they're finding out. They get the letter in the mail with the sympathy cards, and they're finding out, and it's pretty upsetting.
You're absolutely right, because I won't call any name, but I know they didn't study this thing well themselves, because we have some very popular, influential politicians who, on ballots were saying vote, telling the people how to vote on Prop 19, because they were looking at the fact of, being able to relocate, to move from Watts to Bel Air and keep and who from Watts going to be moving to Bel Air. I mean, they just played a trick on people, okay? But I was sad when I saw some of our influential politicians who was having people to vote the wrong way. So evidently they didn't read the bill and didn't understand it themselves. That's why people really going to have to not wait until time for an election. You're going to have to start as soon as something come out, getting the information for yourself. We can no longer allow what we call entertainers or politicians to endorse something and we just feel like we don't have to read it. That's what's killing us right now.
Boy, you're sure right about that, because some of these things are so tricky and they're so complicated and they have unintended consequences. And even if they have partially good intentions, you have to read the whole thing to see what's really in there. And the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is here to help people with this precise issue. So you can go to hjta.org, hjta.org, and you can see all of the information that you need as a voter to understand what they're doing. When we get close to the election, we'll post endorsements of candidates that the HJTA Political Action Committee has made. And we always post summaries of ballot arguments and recommendations about what they are, and trying to make it clear to people what is going on. We also have the Howard Jarvis podcast, where we just talk about these things that are happening in Sacramento and what people are having to deal with because of what the politicians are doing to us. So many of the problems in California are fixable with the right policies, but we have the wrong policies, and it's making life more expensive in California. And that's really got to change because people are hurting.
And Susan, I think it needs to be a push on the fact that we need to demand that we no longer have these damn trickery issues on the issues, that people write it in simple language. You know, they state here that the average person is reading on a 7th grade level. That's been said over and over, and I believe that. And with reading comprehension and understanding, why do you have to have a lawyer to interpret what they're trying to say to us? I think that needs to be the next push.
I agree with you. They're very tricky. There has been a push to have the legislative analyst's office write the titles and summaries instead of the attorney general, because the attorney general, let's face it, is a politician and a partisan politician and has all the alliances and the supporters of any partisan politician. So it's easy to use the kind of poll-tested language to push people in one direction or the other and make things trickier than they should be. So really, the legislative analyst is the one who should write the titles and summary. They write that kind of thing anyway for the ballot materials, and they should write what's on the ballot. But that's going to take a constitutional amendment, and the legislature doesn't want to do it, and we would have to do that with volunteers, which is one of the reasons I think this campaign is so important, the Repeal the Death Tax campaign, because if we can show that volunteers in California can get organized and walk the streets and get 1 million signatures and get something on the ballot, we will be sending the message you're talking about, which is no more trickery. We're on to you. And if you do this to us, we're going to come back at you and we're going to fix it. And we have the ability to do that. It's really important to have grassroots politics credible in California so that people know in politics that this is something that can happen to them if they trick the voters.
Right. Let me give the number out again. We missed a couple of calls. The number is 310-928-7733. That's 310-928-7733. So, Susan, Keith, I'm going to have you to read on the board, but somehow we have to stand up now and demand that this trickery, it has to go. I mean, come on. It doesn't make sense because our children, we look at the next generation, Susan, who, as you look at them now, how they are tech savvy, they are texting, and there's so much. The illiteracy rate in this country is unbelievable. Okay, it really is. Particularly with comprehension. As my father used to say when we would read, and he said, reading is calling words, but did you understand? Can you regurgitate back what you read? That's what reading is about, not just calling words. So I think real soon, I don't know how to get it started, but I sure like to be a part of. We got to fix this for our children, not about us. You know, we'll be off the scene, but we got to fix it for our children and our grandchildren. We can't have all this trickery. That's got to go. This needs to be a priority. It needs to be where anybody read this, it explains exactly what it is about. This got to come about.
I agree with you. I'd be happy to work with you on a project to do that, to clarify what people are reading on their ballots, to make it clear what these things are really doing and who's behind them. I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Well, I definitely want to do that because we can have lay people who, we can test it. Do you understand this? So, Susan, that needs to be done, okay? Let's take a call. We have a caller from 213. Go ahead, caller. Give us your name, where you calling from.
This is Richard.
Good morning.
I'm calling from Carson, California.
Okay. Go ahead.
I got a question. I was listening at your guest. Now, I was trying to understand that if you own a house and you leave it to maybe your daughter, she has to live in that house. You have to be a resident of the house when you when you pass away, and she has to live in it to keep the taxes from for them reassessing the taxes.
Right.
And what about if you own another piece of property and she don't live in it?
Right. The other piece of property.
They're going to reassess the tax.
Right. They're going to reassess it. The other piece of property would be reassessed to market value under current law as Prop 19 changed it. Under our measure, every parent would pass a home of any value plus up to $2.4 million of assessed value of other property. So our measure would protect your house and the other property you own. You'd be able to pass that to your child without reassessment.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Carla?
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's
okay,
why.
One more. Okay, you're saying even if you live in the house and you pass it on to your descendants, you say if it goes over $1 million, they can still reassess the house. I didn't quite get that part.
Yeah, let me explain it. It is kind of complicated. Let's say you have a house that has an assessed value on the tax bill under Prop 13, assessed value of $200,000. But in today's market, it's worth $1.6 million, which is possible. That happens a lot. So under Prop 19, under current law, you have your $200,000 assessment. Prop 19 gives you a $1 million exclusion for extra value. So that covers you for $1.2 million of the value. But it's worth $1.6. So now that extra $400,000 is assessed at market value. That $400,000 is added to the $200,000. Now the current base year value, the new assessment, is $600,000. The $200 plus the extra $400. So the taxes have tripled because instead of being 1% of $200,000, it's now 1% of $600,000. The taxes have tripled, even though you had the exclusion. The exclusion is capped, so it has limited value for a high-value market like California.
Okay, but what you guys doing in the repeal, you're trying to take that cap off, or has it always been there?
Yeah, we're trying to put the law back the way it was before Prop 19, which was a home of any value plus a certain amount of other property. And the amount of other property used to be, under the old measure, it was $1 million of assessed value. We ran that through a calculator for inflation, and the same value today is $2.4 million. So we updated it. So under our measure, you'd be able to pass a home of any value, the primary residence, plus up to $2.4 million of assessed value. That means the amount on the tax bill under Prop 13 added up across all the properties that you own. The first $2.4 million of assessed value can be passed to your children without reassessment, and that protects generational wealth.
That is wonderful.
Okay, so now how do you go by? You said you got this appeal, the death tax campaign. How do you go by getting that? You know, where can you pick up that petition? I need to sign it.
Sir, okay, let me give this out. We're going to have a petition at my business. This is Dr. Rosie. At 1425 West Manchester Avenue. That's in Los Angeles. We're on Manchester, just west of Normandy.
I know where you are, Dr. Rosie.
Okay. So we'll be getting the petition, and I need you get the word out to all your family, friends, church members, because, folks, let me tell you something. The reason I mentioned to Susan, it's important. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten out to the churches because when the members lose their home and can't be here, there go your members. So this thing is going to impact the tenant, going to impact the churches, it's going to impact the businesses, because when the demographic changes, it's going to change what's happened to your business. Folks, this ain't no plaything here that we're talking about. So thank you. So you know where I am. I'll get the petitions in as soon as I can get them, okay?
Okay, what was the name of that proposition that changed this? You said Proposition 20?
19.
It was Proposition 19 in 2020.
19.
Right.
Okay, in 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, give me a call.
You.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we have other callers holding here. Caller, go ahead, give us your name.
My name is Barbara Gates, and I'm calling from Los Angeles. I was curious how we could get maybe 50, 60 of these petitions to take to the church on Sunday and have the people at my church sign them as they finish service on Sunday morning. Since you got such a hot deadline to the 15th of April, we're going to have to get some boots on the ground.
We sure do. You know, if you're in Los Angeles, you can pick them up at the Howard Jarvis office in Los Angeles. So you can call them. Let me give you the phone number. It's 213-384-9656. 213-384-9656. And you can come by. Just call up, and the first floor is locked because the first floor tenant went away for COVID and never came back. However, the second floor, Howard Jarvis is there, and they'll come down and give you the petitions right at the front door. Just call them up and tell them you're coming over. It's located at 621 South Westmoreland Avenue in LA.
Okay.
If
90005.
I order some, how long do you think I'll have them by this weekend, or should I just get somebody to go pick them up?
You can get somebody to go pick them up, or we can probably get a messenger to bring them to you. Just call the office and talk to Monique, and she'll get you set up.
Dr. Rosie, why don't we get enough for everybody?
You want me to get enough?
We'll get you 900 petitions. We'll get you a huge box of them, and flyers and cards and everything else you need to spread the word.
Well, we need 2 boxes. We're not
I'm thinking we can get to the couple of the AME churches locally, geographically, and a couple of the other churches around, and just give them to one specific person so that they can be returned all in one group.
Sure.
And maybe, Dr. Rosie, we can put together maybe 1,000 for you. What do you think?
Yeah, we need to get 2 boxes. We got to get this stuff.
Okay. We'll get you as many as you need. We have tons of them and more on the way.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barbara. I know Barbara have feet on the ground always.
Have a great.
Thank you.
Just make sure everybody who signs is a registered voter.
Right.
And if they're not registered to vote, they can register to vote on their phone at registertovote.ca.gov, and then they can sign. But it won't count if they're not a registered voter.
Right. Now, repeat that. They can register on their phone. Give that out again. Registertovote.ca.gov. Okay. G-O-V, gov. Registertovote.ca.gov. So they can do it right then. Right. You can register on your phone, and then you can sign the petition, and it will count. Okay, that's 310-928-7733. The phone number is 310-928-7733, and you can talk with us. We are talking with Miss Susan Shelley, and our topic today is learn how California's new death tax is really a death tax, and it is destroying the generational wealth for everyday people. You know, I envision if this thing doesn't change, we can look around. All these houses are going to be turned into corporate structure. They're going to be bed and breakfast, or what they call it. It's a new name for it, not bed and breakfast anymore. What is the key? Airbnb. Airbnb. The city's going to be loaded with Airbnb. Okay, I'm not playing with y'all. Y'all better listen to the prophet. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Airbnb and speaking Chinese.
Okay, do we have another caller? Caller, go ahead.
Caller.
And this show is going to re-air tonight. For those who didn't get a chance to listen, it's going to re-air at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, Keith, I think there was something on the board we missed.
Okay, this is a message from Margot from Facebook. Said America is broke and the criminals are running the insane asylum. This is theft any way you look at it. Okay, I agree. Yes.
One more reason that we all have to get organized and start voting for our interests.
Yeah, this is
people
funny.
Have to know what's going on.
This is funny. This is one thing that brings liberals and conservatives together. That's for sure. It
sure does.
Mm-hmm.
It sure does.
Nobody
wants to have their kids taxed out of their property.
That's right.
Right.
That's what we have in common, is that we love our children and our grandchildren.
Got a caller that's holding. Caller, go ahead.
Caller.
Good morning. Am I the caller?
Yes.
What's your name? What's your name and where you calling from?
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Rosie. This is Larry Springs with the Consolidated Board of Realtors. and I just want to commend you on the show that you have this morning. I'm enjoying it. I have a lot of people on the line as well with me enjoying the program as well. And I'm going to I want to find out a couple of things. Number one, to get the information out, you're doing a fantastic job of getting the information out. But there's still a lot of people who are not aware of this particular proposition. So one of my questions that I have for you is there a budget that we will be able to get this information out, such as the different radio stations that we have in the community, our TV programs, our cable programs, things like that we can really get the message out? Because right now we're against time. We're talking about the 15th, which is only a couple of weeks away, and to get 1 million signatures, we really got to be boots on the ground. So I'd like to know, is there a budget? How else can we get this information out so we can get those signatures that's needed?
Well, we do have a radio spot running, and you can hear it on our website at repealthedeathtax.com. You can download that and share it online. You have my permission to share that commercial online and to email it to people. We have spent everything we have raised on this. We are at the end of our budget. If anyone listening wants to donate or has a corporation that would like to support this and would like to donate, or a political action committee that would like to donate, they can go to repealthedeathtax.com and click the donate button, and they can help. And we will buy as much advertising as we can afford to buy while we have the time to do it.
Okay, very good. I do have another question, and it's in regards to adding on to a deed. Say I have property, and now I want to add my siblings. I want to add my children onto my deed. So if I did a quitclaim deed or a grant deed, and I add them on, now we're joint tenants. So upon my death, the property automatically goes to my children. Will that be affected by this property?
It would. What would happen is, because you were equal shareholders in the property, the percentage that you owned would be reassessed. So, for instance, if you were a 50% owner and your child was a 50% owner, then when you passed, your 50% of the property would be reassessed to market value and added to the 50% of the existing assessment. So it would still go up. Plus, if you transfer property before death, there are very complicated capital gains tax implications for that. So be very careful in California before you change the title of a property, because there are a lot of tax implications, not just property tax, but also capital gains and income tax and inheritance tax. And you should talk to a professional before you change the title.
Understood. Now, you're a couple, married, a husband and wife, when they purchase the property, they're joint tenants.
Right.
Now,
there's an exclusion. There's an exclusion for husband and wife, so that would not be reassessed.
Okay, so it's an exclusion.
Yeah, it's just from parent to child, and it's from parent to child and parent to grandchild if both of their parents are deceased.
Right. That's what's affected by this.
But I've dealt with families whose, for instance, the father and the daughter buy a property together. They buy the property together, or it'll be the children and the parents. They all buy the property together, because that's what we're dealing with now, because based upon the prices of the properties, the families are going in and buying them all together. So there's only exclusion for the husband and wife and not the children and the parents?
That's correct.
On property taxes, if a parent dies, then the percentage that was owned by that parent will be reassessed to market value. However, if the child is living in the house, then you would qualify under Prop 19 for the exclusion. But if you buy property together for the children who are not living in the house, then or if the parent is not living in the house, it has to be the parent's primary residence in order for the exclusion to apply. So, for instance, if the parents live someplace else, but they buy a house for the kids with the kids, then when the parent dies, the portion of the property that was owned by the parent will be reassessed to market value, because it was not the primary residence of the parent. So and that's key. That's key. Was it the primary resident of the parent? In Proposition 19, unless they clarified, Susan, if you left the house to 3 of your children, the way it reads that all 3 of them must move in the
Right.
property.
That was the way it read. They did clarify that. There was legislation passed to change the definition, and they did clarify that only one of the eligible children has to make it their primary residence. And if that child moves out, one of the others can move in, and then you can keep the lower tax bill. But it gets rather complicated for people to be moving around like this.
What if it's an apartment building?
If it's an apartment building and the parent lives in one of the, if the parent lives in one of the units, then that whatever percentage that is would be eligible for the exclusion, but the rest of it would be reassessed to market value.
You guys, that's murder. That's why it's called a death tax, okay? They gave it a good name. It is death tax. Means here goes the end, the death of your property. Did you hear what she just said?
Right.
Okay. So the other 3 units, whatever that proportion it is, I guess they do square footage. I don't know how they do it, but they do it, okay? I hope you guys are listening and ready to put the boots on the ground to get out here going door to door, whatever you have to do. Because, I tell you, if this not appeal, I'm just going to take my little stuff and move it on down to Mississippi where my little land is and put me something up there for my kids because they won't be able to stay here if California going crazy like this.
And people are bailing out of California, the left and right, and it's becoming like a bunch of emerald cities where only rich people can afford to live with. Because I think the median household earnings you have to have just to live in Los Angeles is like $136,000 a year, which is most people can't afford that kind of stuff, especially older people.
And you can't, and if you have bills, forget about buying a house. And see, here's the other thing, Larry, that's so critical. That's why I want everybody, real estate people, everybody to be into this. This is impacting folks' income because there are a lot of people, Susan, who would qualify for this house. But because the tax is so high, it prevents them from qualifying for the loan.
That's right. That's right. Okay. The taxes are so high. Right. And it's because the prices are so crazy. The prices are irrational, and no one can control that. And so this is something that people should not be penalized for because you can't control the fact that you bought a house for $500,000 and today it's worth $1.5 million. You can't control that, and you shouldn't be taxed on it, and neither should your kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if a home is about $600,000, the tax on that property is going to be about $600 or so a month.
Right.
That's a lot. And now, when your kids get it, it's going to be $1,000 if the price have increased. Folks, this is nothing to play with. It is nothing to play with at all. And particularly your business. Can you imagine on a little shopping strip and you die and that can't be passed on to your children without that increase in tax? They're going to lose their business too. They're going to lose their business property. Folks, everything we have is at stake. Everything. I just hate that. Only thing I can say, I believe we can do it. That's all I'm going to say. I believe we can appeal this. Yes.
It's Barbara. I just spoke to Monique. I'm going to pick up a couple of boxes, one for you and one for me, so you'll have 900 at your office tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So those who are listening, you can come to 1425. Let me give you the number, 323-750-3592. That's 323-750-3592. Okay, so get involved. Get on that phone, you guys. Now, you guys been gossiping, talking all the week about Will slapping. Who did he slap, Keith?
Chris Rock.
Yeah, y'all been talking about Chris Rock and Will. Chris got money and Will got money. So you better get up off your butt and try to make sure that you keep the money that you need for your children. Did all this chitty chat? Let's make something happen. That's all I'm saying. And don't call up here talking about what you say that for. It's my show. I'm 21 plus and I can say what I want to. Back to you, Susan.
Well, I agree with you. It's entertaining to talk about the Academy Awards, but this is really important for the future, and it's important for every family to be able to, it's important to know when you're working that you're setting an alarm clock for a reason. You're building something for your family. You're taking care of your kids and your children's children, and you're building something in California that can't be taken away. Everybody should have the ability to provide for their families. That should never be taken away by taxes. That's just wrong. You know, we're not robber barons at the turn of the 20th century here. This is regular people with regular houses that should not be taxed out of their property. People should have the right to pass it on to their kids.
And Susan, that has been the promise and the hope for every parent, to be able to leave something for their children, and particularly now in these trying times when we're looking at all the homelessness that we are seeing. People are more entrenched into saying, well, I don't want my kids to be outdoors. I want to be able to leave a house seat. And as I do live in trust, Susan, people saying to me, they want to make a notation, don't sell this property. Hold on it. Make it a house seat that if someone in the family don't have any place to stay, let them stay and rent it to them. Charge a minimum amount of rent. I don't want to see this has been the cry of people right now. You know, you used to live in hope. I hope that if something happened to me, my children are able to go to college, they're able to get a good job. People focus, Susan, had come to a whole different thing. Lord, so their prayer now is, Lord, please, I want my kids not to be outdoors. Isn't that something for to be on a parent, elder person mind? Will that child be in the street or be outdoors? Folks, what have we come to? This is not the way it's supposed to be. Let's take another caller. Caller, go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to point out in the last 2 years, the state has had a budget surplus. Last year, it was $25 billion. This year, I'm not sure how much it is. So why would they need the additional tax other than to do whatever they want to do, which is usually not in the best interest of the people?
Wow. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. We are overtaxed in California. You know, we have the highest state sales tax in the United States. We have the highest gas tax in the United States. We have the highest income tax rates in the United States, and Sacramento has a huge budget surplus, a record surplus, more than $45 billion. That's just obscene.
Last year was $25 billion.
Right. This year it's more.
And when people ask about the tax,
we are overtaxed.
Yeah, and when people ask about the taxes, even the gas, they look at the gas price. They wonder why it's so much in California. People don't understand, just like with the real estate tax, it's all not just the real estate base tax. It's all this other stuff for school boards, for this, for that. And that's the same thing with gas prices.
Yeah.
Right.
And then several years ago when the state balanced its budget, they took a huge portion of the property tax away also from local government, just to balance the budget. It's just really getting out of hand. And the way how they portrayed Proposition 19, it was supposed to do all these other things.
Yeah, that's that, and it only passed by just, a slim chance. It really did. So that tells you right there that it was just misunderstood. Anybody in their right mind would not have wanted this to be. That's why, Susan, I'm gonna have to carve out the time. Oh, I wish I had more time. Because they gotta change that language. In everything, they gotta change the language where the average person can understand it. It's so tricky when you think you're voting yes, it's no. Now, what kind of sense do that make? That makes none at all.
Yep,
well,
you're right about
absolutely
that.
right.
Well, Susan, again,
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. You brought out a good point. So give us again. I want to make sure people know where they can go and get the petition. And I mentioned they can come here. I'm at 1425 West Manchester Avenue. That's just west of Normandy. The phone number here is 323-750-3592. You guys, we got to get these petitions out. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I know I'm going to get some calls. Keith, you know I'm always getting calls, but I haven't been on the church lately. So, Susan, they put me out to churches,
Yeah, let's back in for this one.
Yeah, so I try to be nice when I'm doing my show because, you want to be able to go somewhere and people let you in. But, you really do. But you guys, this is as important as the election. It's more important than the election of the President of the United States to this community. I'm going to tell you why. Things haven't changed for the average person, particularly in my community. I haven't seen any changes under any of the last administration, from Obama on down, on down, on down. Don't be writing and calling me, but this is my opinion. I'm grown. I say what I want to say. But what you need to change is what's taking place in your neighborhood, in your city, in your town, in your state. That's what you need to change. When you can put that in order and have families living the way they should, then everything else is going to flow. Can you imagine if every state cleaned up the state, made things right for the people in the state? We might not even need a White House. I'm just saying. Susan, go on and talk to the people because I done got on a bench right here. Go ahead, Susan.
Everybody can do this. We need 1 million signatures by April 15th, but there are 40 million people in California. There are 21 million registered voters in California. We only need, compared to that, we only need 1 million signatures, but we do need it fast. So don't delay. You can get the petition from Dr. Rosie. You can get the petition at the Howard Jarvis office in Los Angeles. You can find the address on our website. Go to repealthedeathtax.com. Repealthedeathtax.com. We'll mail it to you. We'll help you pick it up. We'll help you drop it off. We'll help you mail it back. We want to do everything we can to get this on the November ballot and fix this problem for the people of California.
And call your relatives and friends who don't know about it in other cities in the state of California. Most of us have relatives in other cities, Lancaster, Bakersfield, Fresno, wherever they are, Sacramento, in California. You need to make sure that they know about this and how they can get the petition mailed to them. This is important. So between today is Tuesday, so you need to get on that phone right now and make your commitment. Don't wait till the weekend. Well, I'll call them on the weekend. No, you need to call them today so they can make that phone call. They can go to the website, because do your life depend on it? Yours might not, but your children will. Your grandchildren's life depends on this decision. The decision we make today will be the reflection of our offspring for tomorrow. Let that soak in and see if you sleep well while not doing anything. I think it's going to wake you up like putting pepper in your eyes. Keith, I came into the office yesterday and I was testing out pepper spray. Keith,
you
I
tested
was coughing. I just did a little bit to see the thing. Yeah.
You tested it out? Oh, come on, Dr. Rose.
I couldn't come back in my office for about 2 hours. Everybody else's eyes were burning in the office up front. I didn't know it was like that,
Yeah, it's a less than lethal weapon.
Oh, my God. I didn't know. I didn't know. But I was coughing and so much was going on. So, folks, I'm telling you, just like that pepper spray, just like it's stringing me out, Proposition 19. It's going to string the next generation out. Susan, I thank you so much
thank
for
you,
being
Dr.
a part
Rosie.
of this show. I really
thank
do.
you. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, I appreciate it. We will be in touch, and I am interested in seeing layman's term written on what they want us to vote on. Do you agree?
Yes. Let's work on that. I like it.
Right. Okay. All right, you guys, the clock on the wall said that's all. The show is going to re-air tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will probably be up on YouTube. I just think everybody needs to be able to go and get the information. If Susan doesn't mind, do you mind this show being posted on YouTube?
No, please do. Post it everywhere.
Okay.
You have my permission to post it everywhere.
Great. And that way people who don't really understand it, Susan, I felt they could go and listen to the show and get a good understanding about what Prop 19 is. That's why I want to put it on YouTube.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you for doing it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And Keith, I don't know where the Valley girl is, but she really missed it today, and I'm not telling her anything. She didn't ask me about what did you all talk about. You should have been there.
We're gonna hunt her down. Okay, she keeps hunt her down.
All right, Susan. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Rosie. Thank you, Keith.
Okay, you guys have a great day.